Hello guys, welcome back to Did It Survive The Legend of Zelda, where we've taken all but the last few enemies from the original Legend of Zelda and followed them throughout the games. If you want to watch the full series, I'll leave that linked here, but I'm also going to do a recap skimming through all of the previous enemies before we get into the last 6.
Starting with order of appearance, we have Lionels. These centaurs have a few fighting styles from swords to fireballs, but still pack a punch over the years, with the original having 4 to 6 hearts and it having front-facing attacks, making it harder to land an easy shot. However, these stone soldiers have been around for quite a few games. Armors are usually dormant until you touch them or get close enough to activate them, then they're able to be defeated. Quoria are pretty cool creatures, throwing their boomerangs or spinning fireballs a little later on in some of the games, but slightly annoying in tighter spaces. Being one of the more familiar enemies in the franchise, Rope are slithery snakes that linger in the dark and unveiled puzzles. They also have a pretty big variety of types and styles. Being the unfriendly type of Zora, these guys shoot fireballs at you when you're close to the water, or occasionally even popping out of the water for an attack in later games. These type are mostly found in the defeated timeline in the franchise. These baddie guys are in every game in the franchise except Adventure of Link. For those of you that won't let me die on this hill, these are Keese and these are Aki. They're similar to Keese, but for this video and to see the progression of each of the named enemies in the original, Aki didn't make the cut. Anyway, Keese are now elementally charged in later games, making them more of a challenge in the 3D games. These recorder hating guys are still one of the more creative bosses in the series. Dig Dogger only allow you to defeat it after it's heard the recorder, or you yell into the microphone if you have a Famicom. Not to be confused with Armos, stone statues are stationary but will spit fireballs at you, making it difficult to stay in one place for long, making bosses more of a challenge. These nightmare-inducing flying blenders are P-hats. You can't hit them unless they're grounded, and they also had a pretty random flight pattern, making it difficult to figure out where they were going to land. Another really cool boss Nintendo hasn't reused is Patra. This flying squad of eyes are actually kind of challenging, making you take out the smaller revolving eyes before you take down the larger one in the center. This would be pretty fun in a 3D boss. Now a fan favorite, the disappearing wizard that shoots you with spells. Wizrobes were annoying then and now evolving into elementally charged attacks, making them become more of a hassle in the 3D games. Boss Goma has actually stuck around for quite a few games. Still having the large unmissable target eye, they typically go down pretty easy with a few arrow shots. These flashing bubbles are one of my top 3 favorite enemies in the whole franchise. They are unkillable until Ocarina of Time, taking on a new full skull-shaped form engulfed in flame for the 3D effect. Before then, they would make you lose your ability to use your sword or drain your magic meter. Paul's voice is a cute little bunny sprite that has some creepy manual art. This little guy is also afraid of noise, making it another enemy that you can yell at in all the games including a DS game. The debris thrower get their name pretty honest. Ogdoroks over the years have evolved a little, making them able to live underground and on land, still throwing rocks at you, which is really lovely if you're just trying to check the area out. You might think that the cemetery inhabiting ghost is a boo, but it's actually called a guinea. They don't really do much other than bumping into you doing damage, but they are still cute. Have you been walking on a sandy area just to get randomly attacked? Most of the time it's a lever. They are sandworms that burrow under the ground until they feel your footsteps in the sand. Another type of sandworm is Muldorm. They used to look like little balls of fire slithering on the desert surface, but recently look like they need a side of fries looking like a whole hamburger. Here we have our large volcano dinosaur lizard, Dodongo. They have changed a little over the years, but the large versions are still hungry for bombs. There aren't too many mummies in the series, but Gibdo have been in quite a few games and most versions they're still flammable. I did want to mention that the scary screaming guys in Twilight Princess that carry the huge swords is actually a Gibdo, and not a Redead given the characteristics. These little jello guys are often confused with their larger counterparts. Gels are in a lot of games, but they're kind of funny sticking to you, slowing you down as you pass through an area if you choose not to get rid of them. These bouncing monsters are pretty cool. Fire split into 2 red keys in most games after they are killed. However, the trick is to make sure that they're all gone before you leave the room, or they'll regenerate, making it so you have to kill them all over again. These 2 creatures are pretty odd. Light-likes are probably one of the least forgettable enemies in the franchise, whether that's the large grotesque ones from Ocarina of Time, or the ones that have the small rubies on top of their head waiting on you to walk over them so they can swallow you up, taking your shield. If you've dealt with them, you remember that. Every time I hear Tektites, I think about that old Nintendo commercial. I really do like the fact that they haven't changed much over the years, they're still really bouncy. Another staple is Moblins. They've been around quite literally forever. From spears to rocks, they don't really do much damage, but they can definitely sniff out your final heart and deliver a final blow. Do you remember gels? Well, Zols are what they can split from. Most of them do a little butt shake before they jump on top of you, and they're usually pretty large. Some people actually confuse these with the Choo-Choos from Twilight Princess due to the fact that they can split into two sometimes if they're large enough, but they're not really considered Zols. The dragon itself has made a recent comeback in the franchise. Gleeoks are some of the hardest bosses to beat whether you consider the open map a large dungeon or not. They've also gotten an upgrade to electricity and ice along with the famous fire breath that's feared for. Now for my favorite enemy of all time is Darknut. All versions of these guys are pretty intimidating, but of course my favorite is widely thought as one of the hardest versions. The elegance and training of the Darknuts from Twilight Princess is incomparable. From the skill level to the actual design of their character, it's just impeccable. To wrap up our recap, the last enemy that we covered in the past few videos is the Manhandla. They look like they have Lego hands, later evolving into actual piranha plant lookalikes. In the original, they only needed one bomb hit to the center of the boss for an insta-kill, making it the easiest boss in the whole game. With that, that's the first 29 enemies that we've covered in episodes 1 through 5. Now let's talk about the last few enemies from the original 1986 Legend of Zelda. Starting off strong, we have a pretty common enemy. It's a tall, wielding skeleton called Stalfos. In the first quest, they're found in dungeons 1 and 7. They visually have a sword but can only deliver a contact hit of a half heart. They only have 2 hearts of health, so it's easy to get behind them and land a few simple hits. However, in the second quest, they're in dungeons 1, 3, and 7. They now can throw their swords at you, dealing 2 hearts of damage with every sword throw along with a 1 heart contact hit. But they still only have 2 hearts of health, so they're pretty easy to get rid of. The standard Stalfos made their way into The Legend of Zelda, Adventure of Link, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, The Wind Waker, Four Swords Adventures, The Minish Cap, Twilight Princess, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Skyward Sword, A Link Between Worlds, and Triforce Heroes. There are quite a few variants of the Stall creatures that descended from the Stalfos, like Stall Children in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Four Swords, and Twilight Princess. As their name states, these are smaller, childlike-sized skeletons that either stab or slash at you, dealing a quarter to a half a heart in damage, so they're slightly less damaging as their adult counterparts. Then in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they introduced Stal Oblins, Stal Moblins, Stal Zalfos, and Stal Noxus as new night enemies in the open world of Hyrule. There are a few boss/mini-boss Stalfos in the series as well, like Parmu Tamu, Stalfos Knight, Master Stalfos, Egos de Icanta, Skull Kita, Blue Stalfos, Stall Master, LD-002G Sakuro, Dreadfuse, and Stall Champion. There is one more famous Stalfos that might get overlooked due to his position in the storyline, but our longtime buddy Hero Shade is a Stalfos as well. He's also widely believed to be the spirit of the Hero of Time from Ocarina of Time. He is personally my favorite version of a Stalfos, however he's friendly, so my favorite Stalfos enemy is the one from Adventure of Link. I like the shield and sword combo that they have. It's good for learning mechanics since they don't move their shield, so you can easily swipe at their legs. However, my favorite boss/mini-boss is the Stalfos Knight from A Link to the Past. After dealing with arguably the hardest dungeon in the whole game, you have to fight a handful of these guys at various times throughout the dungeon. The enemy design is really nice though. It's actually a refreshing enemy after so many slip and falls in the dungeon along with the gliding enemies. Does everybody have their hard hats on? For this next enemy, they hang out on the ceiling or at least in the air looming over you. We have the unforgettable Wall Master. In the original, Wall Masters would appear coming out of the wall in dungeons. If you let it make contact with you, it would take you back to the entrance of the dungeon. They only have 3 health but deal no damage to Link in the levels, just transportation to the beginning. They are found in dungeons 4, 6, and 9 in Quest 1. In Quest 2, they start off in Dungeon 1 and are also found in dungeons 4, 8, and 9. Throughout the years, they later evolved into the Sky Stalker they're predominantly known for. They've dropped down into The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, Four Swords Adventures, The Minish Cap, A Link Between Worlds, and Triforce Heroes. While these enemies only capture Link, there is a version in Twilight Princess called Zant's Hand that protects the soul and will try over and over to grab it and take the ball back to its pedestal. This hand also isn't fazed by walls, traveling through them when needed. This is my favorite version of a Wall Master, even though technically it doesn't share the same name, but is considered one. This version can be stunned with an arrow hit or a sword hit, but the eerie feel of being in a place that already feels heavy, plus the occasional Zant head charging orbs at you like you're both in grade school. Also, you now have to watch out for the giant hand shadowing over you. This large centipede is often confused with its lookalike cousin Moldorm, but this is Lamola. Land mollas are fast insects that can only be damaged by striking the last section on its tail. After all the sections are removed, then you can inflict damage to the head, taking the eye out pretty easily with its 4 health. They have a low attack as well, with a contact hit of 2. As long as you don't get hit too many times, you should be safe. In the original Legend of Zelda, there are 2 versions of Land Molla, one being the standard blue one, and the red one being slightly faster but with no HP or attack difference. They are found in both of the level 9 dungeons in both the first and the second quest. Land Molla are only found in a few games in the series: The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, and Echoes of Wisdom. This is honestly probably due to the fact of them being so close to Moldorm, with both of them being bosses and having similar offenses and defenses. I favor both the A Link to the Past and Echoes of Wisdom version of this enemy. I like the attack style of the boss from A Link to the Past, with it being more of a skill-based elimination with the timed hits from them jumping while you're dodging rocks. Plus you can hit them with a few blasts from the Ice Rod, really damaging them, making the fight take less time. However, the Land Molla from Echoes of Wisdom is an interesting overworld boss as well. This version is more reminiscent of a Molduga from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, with the Desert Storm making sight limited, plus the fight style of the boss from A Link to the Past, and it filling your footsteps. It makes for an interesting battle. Now we have a dragon that has a long unicorn-like horn on his forehead, but technically breathes fire, so I don't really know what to call it other than Aqua Mentis. This dragon marches around spitting 3 fireballs at you to dodge. You can use your magical shield to block the fire. You can use your sword for contact or sword throws, bombs, or the bow for an attack. However, fire and the boomerang are useless against this enemy. Only having 6 health and an attack of half a heart for contact and a whole heart for a fireball, as long as you're quick, you should be fine. Being the first boss you come in contact with, it really says all it should about this dragon. This guy is found in dungeons 1 and 7 in the first quest, and in the second quest it's a dungeon in boss 1, as well as a standard enemy in dungeons 4 and 8. Aqua Mentis has only appeared in 2 games, The Legend of Zelda and Oracle of Seasons, being a predominant boss in The Legend of Zelda and the first boss you encounter in Oracle of Seasons. This enemy is often grouped with Gleeoks due to their appearance and the fact that they're both dragons and have the same basic attack styles, but they're officially different dragons. I want to talk about the traveling hazards next out in the overworld. We do have to worry about getting crushed by boulders though. Just like every other Zelda game with falling rocks, these aren't damageable. You can't break them or detour them, so your best bet is just to avoid them or run past them. Dealing 1 heart of damage and the chance to get hit up to 3 at a time, boulders can actually pose a threat to you if you're low on hearts. They have rolled their way into The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, 4 Swords, The Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Echoes of Wisdom. Each of these variations of boulders pose their own issue, like rolling over you, or even in the later games making it impossible to get a good line of sight to push the boulders onto enemies. However, that does go without saying, I have a favorite for difficulty's sake. I prefer the popcorn balls on Death Mountain and A Link to the Past. If you time it correctly, you can avoid them entirely, never even letting them touch you. I do also like how they're used in Echoes of Wisdom as well. They're very versatile, from breaking crates to finishing puzzles. The other hazard in The Legend of Zelda will make you peek your head in any dungeon room before entering. It's the blade trap. Usually in dungeons you can find 4 blade traps in all 4 corners of the room, just waiting on you to come in so they can close in on you, doing half a heart in damage. However, the initial shock usually makes people pull into the previous room, making them go back into the room all over again. Not even mentioning the fact that you have to come back into the room most of the time, making these guys pretty hurtful and intimidating to deal with. They are found in every dungeon in The Legend of Zelda as well, so you're expecting them in the progression of each new level. They have slid into a pretty lengthy list of games, including The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, 4 Swords, The Wind Waker, 4 Swords Adventures, The Minish Cap, Twilight Princess, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Skyward Sword, A Link Between Worlds, and Echoes of Wisdom. They are sometimes referred to as Pathfinders in some games as well, along with a variation called Chasers in Oracle of Ages, Seasons, 4 Swords, and The Minish Cap. These act the same as blade traps, but are naturally slower. They still move in the cardinal directions, however they stop where they end and wait for Link to cross their path again to make them move. The other variant is called a Giant Blade Trap. They're in A Link to the Past, Oracle of Ages, and Seasons. In simple terms, these are just large versions of a typical blade trap. However, these don't necessarily need to be in the corner of the room as their starting position. My personal favorite is the one from Twilight Princess. I like the dual sizing for both blade traps, the one for the ground and the one for the wall and the track with a spinner. I also think Link's damage animation is pretty funny while getting hit by one of these. Plus, these are the only blade traps in the whole series that you can actually destroy. You have to use the Dominion Rod to direct the statue's axe to do this. Now, before we reach our final enemy, I do want to know what your favorite enemy in the whole franchise is, even if it's not in the first game. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to show this video some love. Our finale in this long 36 enemy series is the one and only Dark Beast Ganon. Unlike Link and Zelda that are of the Hylian race, this demon is more of a boar or hog featured animal that's really depicting how far this villainous demon is from our hero Link. In the beginning of the game, we learn that Ganon has led an invasion upon Hyrule looking to secure the Triforce of Power. After finding it and stealing it, not only does he grow more powerful, but is now also looking to fill his hunger for complete power by finding the last 2 pieces of the Triforce. Knowing of this knowledge, Zelda decides to break the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 chunks and scatter them all around Hyrule, hopefully to prevent him from obtaining the second Triforce, but ultimately slowing him down at the very least. With the Triforce dismantled and hid, Zelda sent her attendant Impa to look for help. During this time, Ganon seizes the castle and takes the princess to Death Mountain to his lair as a hostage, and sends his evil forces to search for Impa before she finds help. In my opinion, somewhere in the waiting, he had to have some reports come back in of a kid named Link actually gaining the pieces back. And Ganon being the mastermind, he most likely seen this as a perplexing situation. If Link had all the pieces of wisdom and courage, then he was going to come looking for the princess anyway. So in turn, he could have all 3 pieces he wanted in defeating Link one time. However, that also meant Link would have more skill and now 2 of the 3 pieces of the Triforce. So that meant he would be stronger than the average Hylian. But with the current Triforce Ganon had, there's a good chance that it not only clouded his judgment, but he simply believed that he could just kill Link quickly in arrogance. Once Link has all 8 pieces of the Triforce, he reaches level 9 inside Death Mountain where he faces Beast Ganon. After entering the boss room, Link holds up his Triforce, illuminating the room, to show this blue boar that has a large red shirt on that could be compared to a vest in size with large red boots. Being invisible, we have the option of a fireball hit or a contact hit, both being a half heart, and he only has 16 health, so it's a pretty simple defeat. To make him visible, we need to land a sword hit, then fire a silver arrow into him for an insta-kill, becoming a pile of ash, leaving only the Triforce, which we use to save Zelda. This version of Beast Ganon is featured in The Legend of Zelda, Adventure of Link, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, The Wind Waker, 4 Swords, Twilight Princess, A Link Between Worlds, Breath of the Wild, and Echoes of Wisdom. Though the final fight looks really similar to a Ganon fight in Link's Awakening, if you've played the game you'll understand why this is more of a memory rather than actually Ganon. Later on, we see the Gerudo side of Ganon before he's transformed into the beast after he's been in contact with the Triforce of Power. We have Ganondorf Dragmire, the king of the Gerudo by birthrights, being the only male born within the century. By default, he is to be king. This rendition of Ganon's human form is seen in A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, 4 Swords Adventures, Twilight Princess, Phantom Hourglass, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. My personal favorite Ganon and Ganondorf fight will always be the one from Twilight Princess. I mean, even the fight with Puppet Zelda was just fantastic. It felt like you were truly face to face with the evil that you've been preparing to fight the whole game. The boar Ganon was a tense battle, only having one weak spot and thinking everything was over when he starts smoking and all is well. Then the shock of evil still being around, and being teleported to Hyrule Field for a horseback fight that leads to a death match between Link and a mortally wounded Ganondorf. As a kid, this was literally the hardest fight sequence I've ever done, and I hold so much love for this particular game, it really felt like a death match with my mortal enemy.
With the explanation of Ganon, that makes this a complete wrap of the Did It Survive Zelda series. I really enjoy these types of videos, but they do take me a pretty good amount of time to research, write, record, and edit. So if you enjoyed this layout of the 36 original enemies from the Legend of Zelda franchise, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and share this with a fellow Zelda fan. Let me know if you want to see a breakdown on another series, or if you want to see a deep dive on a Zelda topic or even another game. Until next time, have fun and replay your favorite Zelda game. Bye guys!